I grew up in this place in Minnesota where we had big, rich, dark soil. It was an incredible place to grow up. And we lived on a big acre of land, and in this acre of land, we had this big plot which was set aside for the garden. Every year we'd plant and harvest like this amazing garden. Well, one year when I was about 14, my parents decided to give us boys, there's 5 boys in our family, the responsibility for taking care of the garden. Great idea. They want to teach us work ethic, they want to teach us responsibility, they want to teach us that. And at first when the idea was proposed, it was like, how exciting. Right? I love fresh tomatoes from the garden. Who else loves fresh tomatoes, right? And fresh peas and carrots. And here we were at the beginning of the summer thinking, what do we want to create? And we're envisioning all of the things that we wanted to plant in the garden. And so we kind of mapped it all out, and we got the seeds. And then it was time to prepare the garden. So to prepare the garden, we got this like great big rototiller. And we went out there and like, for those of you that have done gardening, churning up all this soil and plucking out the weeds and getting the soil so it was prepared. Now here's the thing about gardens, is they don't care when you plant them, right? The gardens are there to yield what you want if you plant the right seeds. And every seed has a certain fruit that it will grow. You plant a carrot, you get what?
A carrot.
A carrot. You plant a tomato, you get a tomato. You plant a pumpkin, you get a pumpkin. Right? So there's certain seeds that create certain fruit. And so we churned up all the soil, and then after you churn the soil, what do? You plant the seeds and you fertilize it. And then after you fertilize it, what do?
Water.
You water, and then you weed, and then you
Wait.
repeat. Tony has this program called Water, Weed, Repeat, but it's this journey of cultivating these specific results that we want in our life. But it's this tending and nurturing to the garden. Now, when you plant a seed in a garden, how fast does it take for that to yield fruit? Depends on the seed, right? Like a tomato is going to take a different amount of time than a carrot. A tomato is going to take a different amount of time than an apple. Like they have different seeds. And this is called the law of gestation. Write this down. Law of gestation. The law of gestation states that every seed has a certain required time before it yields the fruit. And as much as we want, we can't bypass the natural laws of creation. Right? It's not like you can plant a seed and say, hurry up, grow faster, come on! And hope that a month after you plant an apple seed that you'll be yielding apples. That doesn't work, right? Which is why there's the axiom that says the best time to plant an apple tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. But there is this time. Same's true with babies, right? Like there's a certain amount of time a mouse can grow a baby in 2 weeks. A woman takes 9 months. An elephant takes 2 years, right? Just depending on that. And I don't care how ambitious you are, women, you can't speed up that process. Right? You can't accelerate. Like there's this time that's required to grow. And you have to cultivate the garden in the process. This is the key. So here we were as teenage boys, super excited, and we were so dedicated to taking care of this garden for about 2 weeks. Right? You know how it goes. It's like New Year's resolutions. You have this amazing idea. I'm so excited. You take care of it. You do what you're supposed to do. And then you get distracted or get busy with different things. And it was summer. We're playing with friends. We were doing all these other things. And so time passed and we forgot about the garden. Now, I remember that summer very clearly because there was one day that I went out to go mow the lawn. And I was assigned to mow that section right next to the garden. And I went out to mow the lawn. And it had been months since we had taken care of the garden. Guess what we saw in the garden? Guess what we saw?
Weeds.
Oh, no, not dandelions. We saw thistles. For those of you that are from the Midwest, you know, like these thistles are not like little things. Like these thistles were taller than I was. These big gnarly thorns, they're vicious. And they were like really intense. And I looked at this and I was like, what? Who planted the thistles in my garden? Right? And why was my garden full of weeds? Why do you think the garden was full of weeds? Because I sucked as a gardener, right? I was a lousy gardener. Now it's interesting because in our life, we all have our gardens. We all have these gardens of our life in which certain things grow that are absolutely what we want and yield this amazing, delicious fruit. And how many of you admit that in your life you have some areas where you have weeds growing in your life? Right? So this is where we get to take responsibility and to choose to become what we call conscious creators. Write these words down. Because this is when we claim ownership over the results of our garden. I could have blamed a lot of things for the fact that I was getting weeds in the garden. Could have blamed nature. I could have blamed my brothers. I could have blamed a lot. But at the end of the day, whose garden was it? It was my garden. Whose fruit was it? It was my fruit. So this first principle of legendary living is radical responsibility. Say those words with me. Radical responsibility. This is where I take 100% ownership for the results in my life. And here's the deal. So we have, I'm going to, for this moment, just have you imagine that this tree represents the orchard or the garden of your life. So on this tree, we have the fruit that shows up in the garden. And this fruit represents the results that you're experiencing. So one result might be your relationships. One result might be your emotions. One result might be your money. One result might be your body. One result might be your spirituality. Then you have the home that you live in and the car that you drive and all these other results that show up as the fruit in your life. Now, as you look at the results in your garden, how many of you have fruit that maybe you feel like is a little bit rotten? Right? Raise your hand if you have any rotten fruit, any fruit that's showing up in your life that isn't what you want. Okay? So, what I'm going to invite you to do right now is just this process of transformation requires us to go through these 5 steps. These are the 5 steps of transformation. Step 1 is awareness. Write this down. Step 1 is awareness. Awareness is when we step into conscious understanding of what we're creating and how. Until we actually see what is showing up in our garden and how we've grown it, we are powerless to change it. Most of the world lives in a state of unconsciousness. And unconsciousness means simply that they are just oblivious to what's present in their life and how it's shown up. They see the results in their life, but they don't understand what's created that. And as long as we're unconscious to what's happening, as long as we're unaware, we become powerless to change it. Second step. After awareness is accountability. So this is the stage of radical responsibility where we say, oh, I'm responsible for these results in my life. There can be no transformation, no conscious creation, if we linger in a state of victimhood. Third step is alignment. Alignment is critical for the intentional transformation to happen in life. Alignment is where we get clear on what we want, and we align our desires, our actions, and our beliefs. If those three things are in alignment, then creation is easy. But if there's ever anything that's out of alignment, it becomes impossible for us to change long term. So we're looking for alignment in what three things? Our desires, our actions, and our beliefs. So this is where we get to really focus on upgrading our beliefs so that our actions will lead to the results that we want. And then, the next step after alignment is action. Why do you think action needs to come after alignment?
Because if you're not in alignment, you're basically in a ship with no compass.
Yeah, if you're not in alignment, you're in a ship with no compass. I love that analogy, right? And here's the deal. How many of you have ever worked really, really, really hard for something but not gotten the result? Anyone? If you worked really hard, and maybe it was that diet or maybe launching a business and you didn't actually get the result. The challenge is if our beliefs are out of alignment, our actions won't create the results that we want, right? So Shauna, for example, you want to grow in business, you're ready to thrive, right? But if in the past you've had a fear of success, or a fear of being seen, or a fear of responsibility, or whatever that fear might be, it would make sense that even if you're doing the right things, that somehow there's going to be some sabotage that takes place, right? So our goal is to make sure we're in alignment, because as soon as we're in alignment, then the actions become effortless. There's still effort, but there's less effort. It's more flow. And the last step is acceleration. The final step is just acceleration. Like once we actually are on the right path, then we get to speed up and we can see how fast we can grow. And all of this ultimately leads to the space of abundance. Abundance in the garden of our life. So, we're going to look at this, and then I'm going to be taking one of you and taking you through a breakthrough process to illustrate how this works. So, real quick, I want you to check in. We're going to start with this first step of awareness. And this is the space of radical responsibility and honesty where you get to really take accountability for where you're at right now. That will give us something that we can really focus on working on through the course of this experience that we have together. So, I'm going to have you tune into your relationships right now. Tune into your relationships, and there could be a specific relationship or your relationships in general. But if you were to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, your current relationships, just on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to invite you to write in your notebook. Write this down. Write relationships, and then rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at right now?
Like all relationships.
Yeah, you could do all relationships. And the reality is this is a little bit hard because each relationship is different. But if you're in a intimate partnership relationship, measure that. Maybe if you can measure a relationship with your kids. You can measure that. It's just useful to look at, okay, where am I currently at in my garden? Being willing to look at the fruit that's showing up. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, on the count of 3, I'm just going to invite everyone to shout out whatever that number is as a way of declaring that. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so just recognize. For some of you, it's a 2, a 3. Some of you, it's 5. Some of you, it's an 8. But recognize what we're looking for right now is we're looking for the gap. We're looking for what's keeping you from being a level 10. Now let's look at your emotional state, just your general emotional state. Now, our emotions go like this. So there's sometimes you might be at level 2, sometimes you might be at level 10, and it's this right. If you were to just rate your emotional state in general over the course of the last month, where would it be? So on a scale of 1 to 10, just write that down, recognizing that this is an ever-moving target, but we have our home base. Is your home base to feel like a 4, or is your home base to feel like a 9? Right? Just recognize where's your home base for your emotions. So on the count of 3, I'm going to have everyone speak it out loud. 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
Okay. Now we're going to look at money. In terms of your money, finances, in terms of where you want it. 10 is you're overflowing with abundance. You have more money than you can possibly spend. 1, you're deep in debt and you can't even pay your bills. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're just going to invite you to just rank where you're at right now. And here's the thing I want to emphasize. It's not making that number bad or wrong. If you have rotten tomatoes in your garden, it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, I need to take better care of this garden so that I grow the fruit that I want. So this isn't to create blame or shame in your life. This is just simply to create awareness. It's like, oh, I can see I need to be a more conscious gardener in this area of my life if I want to be able to create that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with money on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3.
4.
Okay? So just rank that, recognize. Now let's look at your body, in terms of your body of health and energy. 10, you're healthier than you've ever been, you're sexy, you're just feeling this excitement about your body. 1 being you're sick and tired and overweight and you can barely move. On a scale of 1 to 10, rank that on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
Okay. And last is your spirituality. Just your connection to Source, connection to God. How deeply you feel connected. Whatever that way that you define your Source. So in terms of your spirituality, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3.
Thanks.
Okay. So recognize we have all these different areas. On day 3, we're going to be going deeper into elevating your vision for your life. But right now, I just want to create awareness of this. Because in the path of creating a legendary life, this is where we become the master gardeners. Everything that you're going to learn over these next 4 days are designed to give you tools that you can implement so you start developing better fruit in your life. This experience would mean nothing unless it translates into a different experience of how you show up in the world than what you create. Got that? Like, our goal is not, I need to make this very clear, our goal is not to give you information. Our goal isn't to give you more information, it's to create transformation. To create this shift in who you are in the world so that the results come naturally and easily. So you can create that body that you want, so you can create that money that you want, so you can create that relationship that you want, so you can have the full expression of your legendary life. Remember this, information is cheap, transformation is priceless. Information is cheap, transformation is priceless. Our mission here isn't to give you more information, you are overloaded with information. Our goal is to help you implement these things so that you take them into your life and that you have tools to meaningfully take care of your garden so you create some different fruit. So, I'm going to invite you to identify which area in your life is the one with the biggest gap. The biggest gap from where you're at right now to where you want to be. What is that biggest gap that is holding you back? The biggest gap in your life. So identify the area where you see the biggest difference between where you want to be and where you are. So on the count of 3, I'm going to have everyone speak that out loud. 1, 2, 3.
Relationship.
Okay. Great. So here's, as we look at these different areas in our life, just raise your hand. How many of you feel like relationships is where your biggest gap is? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you feel like in terms of your emotional state, that's your biggest gap? Okay. In terms of money, how many of you feel money is the biggest gap that you have? Okay. In terms of your body and health, how many of you feel like this is your biggest gap? in terms of spiritual connection, how many of you feel this is your biggest gap? All right. So relationships and money is by far the ones that have the biggest deficit here. So we're going to do some work with this. But here's where we need to get really clear. We need to really understand where the root of the problem is. So many people get lost in the idea and think that the fruit that's showing up in the garden is the problem. Right? How many of you ever thought of having a lack of money as a little bit of a problem? Raise your hand if you've ever thought having a lack of money is a problem. Lack of money is never, ever the problem. A lack of money is never, ever the problem. It's the what?
Fruit.
Yeah, it's the fruit or it's the result. Remember, so I'm going to take you back to a moment in my life. So I was married for 16 years and ended up, going through this really difficult divorce. Like, it was really painful. And somehow on the other side, I had taken the time to really invest in learning how I got there. And I started studying about relationships and learning all these things that I didn't know. And the day after my divorce, I decided to write this article. I didn't mean to write an article. I wrote a letter to myself, basically. And the letter to myself was like, okay, what did I learn from this? And so I wrote a letter called The Marriage Advice I Wish I Would Have Had. And after writing it to myself, I was like, wow, these are really powerful principles. I wonder why I didn't ever know these before. And so I ended up sharing those on Facebook, and at the end of the first day, it had been shared 7,000 times. By the end of the first week, it had been shared 70,000 times, and it kept being shared millions of times around the world. And I was on the Today Show, and all of a sudden, everyone started calling me this divorce guy for relationship advice, right? I'm not a relationship expert. I had to keep reminding them. But it was interesting because I'd be interviewed by these radio shows and these TV shows, and they'd always ask this question, Gerald, why do you feel like divorce is such a problem in the United States? Over 60% of marriages end in divorce. And I would always say this, I'm like, oh, divorce isn't the problem. They're like, what? Yeah, divorce isn't a problem. They were so confused. It's like, no, divorce is the result. The problem lies way before the divorce happens. The problem lies in the fact that we are insecure and we don't know how to actually love and to be loved. The problem is that we don't know how to communicate effectively. The problem is we don't know how to care and intentionally build those relationships. The problem happens long before the divorce. The divorce is just the fruit that shows up in the tree. The problem lies in the roots. What I want you to think about this is there's a certain way that we create all these different things. So if this is the result, what does this trunk represent?
The root of it.
The trunk represents our choices, our actions or our avoidance of action. It represents the habits that we have. It just represents the things that we do to create that result. So let's take an example. Let's say someone is chronically overweight, right? That's the result that's showing up in their body. If they're overweight, what are choices that they might be making?
Twinkies.
To eat unhealthy food. What else? What other choices would they be making?
Not exercising.
Okay, not exercising. What else might they be doing?
Yeah.
Not drinking enough water. Eating emotionally. Right? So there's actions, there's habits that create that result. Do we agree? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? So there's these different things that they do and they don't do that create that fruit in their life. But is this where the problem is? Yes or no?
Nope.
No. The problem is not even what we do. This is the fundamental issue with most people when they try to change, is they try to change what they do. They think that if they go on a diet or if they just force themselves to go work out, or if they force themselves to do things, then it's going to create the different result. But it doesn't work that way. We have to go down to the deepest root. And so, where do we go to find what's really causing the problem?
Beliefs.
It's the roots, right? And so the roots represent
Beliefs.
our beliefs or our identity. This is why we call the work that we do at Legendary identity work. Because if you want to create more money, it comes down to shifting your identity. If you want to create better relationships, it comes down to shifting your identity. If you want to create better body and more healthy, it comes down to shifting your identity. Everything comes down to this. Remember this, like write this down. This comes from a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. In this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, he says this. He says, you can never outperform your own self-identity. Or he says self-image. You can never outperform your self-identity. Willpower is never enough to overcome your identity. Tony Robbins says this, identity is the most powerful force in the universe. It's our need to stay consistent with how we see ourselves. This is what drives all human behavior. And so what happens if we try to approach change by just plucking the fruit? What happens? We end up growing that same fruit back. Have you ever seen anyone get divorced and they think, oh my gosh, my spouse is the problem. They pluck the fruit and they throw it away, and then next thing you know, they're in the same relationship with the same person in a different body. Right? Or they, yeah, right? Just like, because they haven't shifted the core beliefs underneath the surface. So this is our goal, is to dig down to the identity and to create transformation there. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to take someone through a breakthrough process where we're going to be teaching as we do this. Is there anyone that would love to have a breakthrough that wants to shift an area in your life where you've been experiencing some change? Anyone? Aaron, I'm going to have you come up. Give Aaron a big round of applause. All right, so tell everyone your name.
My name's Erin.
Hey!
Hey!
All right, so which of these areas is it that you want to?
Relationships.
Relationships, awesome. So give us an idea of what's showing up in your fruit right now. What do your current relationships look like?
I'm single.
Yeah. How long have you been single for?
About, what month is it? June? So not too long, about 3 or 4 months.
Okay, about 3 or 4 months. And in the past, like, what's caused you to give me a snapshot of these other relationships that you've had in the past that haven't worked out? What patterns do you notice? What fruit do you see showing up in your tree?
I have high expectations,
Mm-hmm.
and no one can live up to them.
And what happens when you have high expectations and no one can live up to them?
Then I'm not allowing the person to be themselves, and I'm never completely happy.
Okay. So you're never completely happy, you're not allowing them to show up as themselves. What happens? What else happens as a result of that in the relationships?
I don't feel fulfilled. I hold back. I'm not being my 100% myself. I don't give all of myself.
So what we're doing right now is we're just creating awareness. We see where she's at right now, and we see what she's created in her relationships in the past, right? And this is really important because the fruit always reflects what?
The results,
The fruit is always a reflection of what the roots.
beliefs.
What's above the ground is always a reflection of what's beneath the ground. So when she says, I am never fulfilled, I have high expectations, that makes it so that they don't feel like they can show up, and you don't show up as yourself. Like, these patterns are simply a reflection of what's happening underneath the surface. And the challenge is, if Erin just continues to operate based on her existing blueprint, her existing root system, she's just going to keep creating what? Have you experienced this in multiple relationships?
Yes.
Okay. So she's experienced this over and over again in her relationships, where over and over again she sees the same patterns occurring. And if there's not like a shift down here, she's going to keep experiencing. So I'm going to invite you to go back to a time when you were in a relationship that you experienced the most frustration or friction, a time where you felt disconnected, a time where you felt like you were creating something in your life that you didn't want. Let me know when you're there.
Should I go back as far as I can remember, or
Well, just
more
think back to
recently?
the most recent memory.
Okay.
Yeah, the most recent memory. Or even explore, like, what are your feelings when you think about getting into a relationship? What are the fears or feelings or emotions that you experience? Just identify something in your life that's not working. Can you think of something?
Yeah.
Okay, describe to me that situation.
I feel like I'm being held back, like I can't fully spread my wings and fly, I'm not supported.
So in that situation, describe what's happening that made you feel held back. What's happening in that situation that made you feel like you're not supported or that you can't be fully expressed?
The need for more of my attention and time.
Okay, so you would need more attention and more time. You would feel like that was holding you back, is that right?
Well, that's how I feel like the other person in my relationship, like I wasn't giving enough time.
Oh, you
Or
felt
energy.
like you weren't giving enough time,
Yeah.
energy. Okay. And how did that feel to you?
Frustrating, like I was almost trapped.
Yeah. And when you felt frustrated and trapped, like, how did you show up in that relationship?
I wasn't present.
Okay, you weren't present, and when you weren't present, what did you do? How did you engage in the relationship?
Pulling away.
Okay, you pulled away. All right. So what we're looking back, like in this process, we just want to get clear on what's happening. Okay, in this situation, what the fruit that's showing up is she's feeling disconnected, she's feeling like she's not able to give enough, she feels like she's expected to give more than she wants to, and she's feeling exhausted. That makes it so that she feels not present, and she pulls away, and she disconnects. And maybe even when she does connect, it's not fully giving, right?
Yeah.
Do you notice yourself being conditional in that relationship where,
Yeah.
and do you notice that when you do give, that you are expecting things in return?
Yeah.
Okay. And just notice, like, this conditional giving process is natural. So our goal right now is to figure out what's going on underneath the surface, because this is where the healing needs to happen. So in the moment, go to that emotion. Where in your body do you feel the most emotion as you think of that?
My stomach.
Okay. As you tune into that emotion in your stomach, how would you define that emotion? What is the emotion you feel?
It's like uneasy. Like it's just kind of anxiety, uneasy.
So as it's uneasy, I'm going to invite you to tune into that emotion. Identify what that emotion is saying. Like, what is the belief that is connected to that emotion? And I want you to think about the belief that's associated with that emotion. And then we're going to dig deeper and just explore your global beliefs about relationships. But what is the emotion what is the belief that's attached to that emotion? What would you need to believe to feel that way?
That I'm not good enough, or that I can't be my authentic self.
What would happen if you were your authentic self?
I would get yelled at, or
And if you got yelled at, what would that mean about you?
that I had to behave and be quiet, that I'm small and I'm not important.
I'm going to have you expand your awareness. And what does it mean about relationships? If you believe that you're not good enough and that you have to behave and be small, that you're not important. When you think about relationships, relationships are
Relationships are hard work.
okay. So relationships are hard work. What else?
They don't likely last.
Don't last. What else?
That they'll leave or cheat.
So men will leave you. They'll cheat. What else about men? What other ideas about men do you feel? Men are your partners.
That I can't trust them.
I can't trust them. Okay, any other beliefs that you notice are attached to this feeling in your stomach?
Just like the desire to want to be able to have a relationship where I trust someone and can be myself. It's like a burning desire.
Yeah. So, without thinking about it, the reason I can't have that relationship is?
I'm not trusting.
I'm not trusting. So, I'm going to invite you to kind of look at these different beliefs that are showing up in this emotion in your stomach. If you believe that you're not good enough, if you believe that you can't be your authentic self, that in order To be loved, you have to behave or be small, or that you're not important. If you believe that relationships are hard work and they don't last, if you believe that men will leave you or cheat on you, and you can't trust men, or you're just not able to trust. If you believed in those things, what fruit would you imagine would show up in your life?
Men that keep me small and that I can't trust.
Ta-da! Just reflect back in your life to see times in your life where you felt evidence of this. Where you felt evidence of feeling like you needed to play small. You felt evidence of these men showing up in a way that you couldn't trust them. You felt evidence that validated your point of view. Can you see that? Okay, here's the lesson that we get to learn is like we always find evidence for what we really believe. If you believe that making money is hard, you're always going to experience it being really hard to make money. If you experience that relationships don't last, or that there's no good men, or there's no good women, or whatever your belief is, you'll always find evidence for those things. This is how our brain works, right? It just simply brings up fruit that's reflective of the seeds that are underneath the surface, the roots that are underneath there. So if nothing changes, Aaron, if nothing changes and you continue to create your next relationship, and your next relationship, and your next relationship with these same beliefs there, what will that cost you? What will be the cost of not changing if you were to fast forward a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road as these beliefs don't change?
So much. It costs so much love that I have to give, and a partnership that I want to experience this amazing life with. Would just cost so much. It's one of my greatest desires.
Yeah. And just notice, as long as these beliefs that you've had are there, are you going to be able to create that relationship you want to be? And allow yourself to really feel that, because now is a really important moment for you. These beliefs, are they the truth or are they a lie?
They're a lie.
How do you know they're a lie?
I just feel that they are.
So why would you believe them?
It's just from my experiences.
Yeah. So recognize this. This is critical for us to understand. Is how do we recognize the difference between truth and a lie? Remember this, write this down. Lies will always limit. If it limits you, if it causes you to play smaller, if it causes you to shut down, if it causes you to disconnect, if it causes you to not trust, if it's a lie, it will limit you. While the truth will set you free. Right? Truth will set you free. So this, Aaron, the first step of awareness and transformation is recognizing that you're the one that chose these beliefs. And of course you didn't choose them consciously. No one would. These lies are simply BS, which stands for belief system. Simply like the belief system that you've had, that there were some experiences. So what's going to happen right now is we're going to go back and we're going to challenge these, and we're going to have you create a new belief system.
Can we also call them bullshit?
Yeah, that's fair. I never thought BS could mean bullshit. Yeah, you're right. I guess it could mean that. So I want you to look at this bullshit. Did you believe it?
You want me to open my eyes?
No, no.
Okay.
I just want you to look in your mind, just imagine that you're peering down at the core and just see that energy in your stomach. Can you see that? I want you to imagine that all of that bullshit, all the BS is connected to that emotion in your stomach. If you could give that emotion a shape or color, what shape or color would it be?
It's round and, I want to say black.
Round and what?
Black.
Round and black. Okay, so it's this round black shape. Imagine that all of these beliefs, I'm not good enough, I can't be my authentic self, I have to behave to be small, I'm not good enough, I'm not important, relationships are hard work, the relationships will last, men aren't trustworthy, they'll leave or they'll cheat. Imagine all of that BS is tied up in that energy. Can you imagine that right now? So I'm going to invite you to tune into the belief inside of that is strongest. If you could identify one belief about you, what does it mean about you? I am or I'm not what? What's the biggest belief about you?
I'm not lovable.
I'm not lovable. I want you to feel that black round shape represents I'm not lovable, and all of these other beliefs are associated with that. So what's going to happen right now is we're going to identify where this first began for you. Because for all of us, these belief systems, the BS that we have, all originated from the time when we were young. Before our conscious mind had fully matured, we all adapted and adopted these beliefs based on our experiences. And so what's going to happen in a moment is I'm going to count backwards from 3 to 1. You're going to go back to the very first memory, the first time that you remember having the idea or thought or feeling that says, I'm not lovable. So take a big deep breath in. And breathe out. 3, 2, 1. Be there now. So are you indoors or outdoors?
I'm indoors
Are you alone or are you with others?
with others.
About how old are you?
I want to say maybe between 5 and 7.
Okay. So let's just call you a little 5-year-old Erin. So talk to me about what's happening.
I'm with my mom and my stepfather, and I got sent home from school, from preschool or kindergarten, because I got lice. And I discovered this because at school I would go up to the nurse and ask her to test me for lice because I thought it felt good. And one day I actually had the lice, and I came home and my stepfather got really angry with me and was yelling at me. And asked me how this happened and how I knew that I had them, and I said that I didn't. I was just asking the nurse to feel for it because I liked the massage, and he didn't believe me. And I got in a lot of trouble, and I just felt like my voice wasn't being heard, and like I wasn't trusted. And I felt helpless. And he was just really, really, really angry.
So being that little 5-year-old girl right now, just feel that feeling of being small, of not being heard, feel that emotion. Right now, I want you to imagine in your mind's eye that you see that round black ball inside your stomach emerging, right? This first time that you're taking on this idea, this belief that says, I'm not lovable. And in the moment, I want you to see the cost that is about to happen in your life when you take this belief on. Allow yourself to see as that little girl, the moment you take that belief on, it starts to become your reality. You start to see all of these other moments as you grow up where you felt like you weren't lovable. Right now, just scan through your life and see all of the times in your life where you felt like you weren't lovable. That this round black ball infected your way of seeing so that you saw that you weren't lovable. How often in your life do you feel like that showed up for you after that moment?
All the time.
All the time, yeah. So be there as that little 5-year-old girl. I want you to imagine that you're there and just you're recognizing that this is an important moment. So in a moment what's going to happen is I'm going to have you imagine that you as your highest and best self gets to go back and be with that little girl. That part of you that has the answers, the wisdom that she needs to hear to make a better decision. I'm going to invite you to imagine that your highest and best self just gets to go there and support her to make sure that that black ball doesn't take hold of her life and help her so she can make a new decision that's going to impact the rest of her life. So take a big deep breath in. Just right now, just align with your highest and best self. Take another big deep breath in. In a moment, when I count backwards from 3 down, you're going to be your highest and best self back there with that little girl. 3, 2, 1, be there now. Do you see little Erin in front of you?
Yes.
It's kind of cute that she loved getting her hair checked out. She's adorable. She just asked, I just want a scalp massage, you know? I don't want lice, just give me a scalp massage, right? How cute she
Did
is.
I create the lice?
Yeah, how beautiful it is. And right now she's scared, isn't she? Right now she's about to take on this belief that says she's not lovable. I want you to imagine right now in this moment, you can help that little girl take that black ball out of her stomach. Just imagine you're pulling it out of your stomach right now. Just pull it out. All that emotion, all that lies, all the BS. Just imagine you're pulling it all out right now. Pull it all out, pull it all out. Let me know when it's all out of that little girl. Let me know when it's all out of you. Any thought, any trace of that lie that says I'm not lovable, just get it out because it's totally a lie. Let me know when it's all out. Good job. You got it? Good now. Take a big deep breath in. Just feel that space. Just breathe space down into that area in your tummy. Take another big deep breath in. And breathe the space all the way down. As you just release all of that energy, all of those lies, just let that go now. And just imagine that you place all of that black ball energy out in front of you. You can always choose to put it back in later if you want. But right now, just put it out there. And right now in this moment, that little girl needs to be spoken to. She needs to be loved. She needs to be able to see the truth. How does she want to be spoken to? Do you want to hold her? Does she want to sit on your lap? Do you want to get down on your knees? How do you want to speak to her? What does she need?
She wants to sit on my lap.
Okay, so go ahead and put her on your lap right now. And just see her. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful little girl. And now you're going to speak to her the words that she needs to hear. You're going to speak directly to that beautiful little heart of hers and help her understand what she needs to understand, see what she needs to see, and feel what she needs to feel, so that she can make a better decision, so she can make sure that she never takes on this lie that says, I'm not lovable. So go ahead and speak to her now.
Little Erin, you know your truth. It doesn't matter if other people believe you or not. You know your truth. You did nothing wrong. You're being honest. And you shouldn't be punished for that. But it's a lesson. Because in life, people There will be times where people don't believe you, but as long as you know your truth, that's all that matters. And stand up for yourself. And know that you are loved. And you are lovable. And don't let anyone ever push you down or stop you from sharing your love or your voice. Just stay strong and know that other people are dealing with things that are outside of you. And just try to recognize that with compassion. But don't let it silence you or hold you back. You are beautiful, you are strong. You are truth, you are love, you are light. And just shine.
Be that little girl now. And as you experience that as a little girl, what do you feel now? What did you hear your higher self tell you? What do you want to remember in this moment?
I feel strong. I feel like I don't need the approval from the others that I was seeking. And as long as I am honest and use my voice, it doesn't matter how other people react. Because I am the most important person.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
And in remembering this, I want you to notice that black ball that you used to feel. It seems ridiculous now, doesn't it? It seems crazy that you would have thought that you were not lovable, huh?
Yeah.
It's crazy that you think that you couldn't be your authentic self and that you had to be small. It seems ridiculous because you know that's not true. So in this moment, I'm going to give you an invitation. You can either take that black round shape and put it back in and take back on the lie that says I'm not worthy or I'm not lovable or I'm not good enough. You can take back on the lie that says relationships are hard work or you can't trust people. You can take on the lie, or you could choose to let it go now. Do you choose?
I choose to let it go.
Yay! She chooses to let it go. All right, so if you could destroy it any way you want, if you could get rid of that round ball any way you want, how would you want to destroy it and let it go?
I want to take like a huge sledgehammer.
Do it! Do it!
10 times. Get it, girl.
Get it, get it, get it, get
One
it.
more just to be
All
sure.
right, is it gone?
Yes.
Okay, it's gone. Just see it gone right now. And right now, in that space, just know that it will never enter. And I want you to right now be your highest best self. I want you to imagine that you can give this little girl a new object, a new shape, something that will be a reminder to her of the truth. What do you want to give her?
A green heart.
A green heart. Just imagine you have this beautiful green heart. And in this contains all of the energy of who she is. What do you want this heart to remind her of? Go ahead and tell her what you want this to remind her of.
I wanted to remind her of her strength, her power, her endless amounts of love. The heart is like glowing, so that she is reminded to just glow and shine brighter than everything and to never lose that.
Yeah, beautiful. You feel that right now and feel that energy. Go ahead and hand it to that little girl and see her receive it. See the look of joy on her face. And go ahead and be that little girl and receive that. And go ahead and take that and just go ahead and take that green heart and go ahead and place it in your chest. As you place it in your chest, I want you to feel that energy begin to flow through you. The energy reminding you of who you really are. And in this moment, I want you to feel that energy begin to grow and expand. This energy begin to pour through your body as you remember who you truly are. What's the one main belief that you want to remember from this? What's the most important thing for you to remember from now and moving forward, represented by this green heart? What does it want to remind you of?
That I'm the most important, and as long as I'm living my truth, that's all that matters.
Good, and rather than the lie that says I'm not lovable, what's the truth?
I'm so lovable.
You are so
I have endless
lovable.
amounts of love to give.
So say that again, I'm so lovable.
I am so lovable.
I'm so lovable.
I am so lovable.
I'm so lovable.
I am so
I feel
lovable.
that love just pour through your heart right now and expand and become brighter and stronger. And right now, I want you to see that little girl remember that. And put her back in that same situation, and she's with her stepfather, knowing her stepfather is just upset and who knows what's going on in her life. But she remembers what truth?
That I am lovable.
Yeah, and see her just go on and continue to play and
She's
enjoy.
dancing and like, I don't care.
Yeah, and she remembers from this time forward that anytime she wants a scalp massage, she can just ask for it, right? So just remember that she's so lovable.
Without the lies, please.
Yeah. So she takes on that new belief. What's the new belief?
I am lovable.
And feel that energy begin to grow and expand within your heart, flooding to every part of your being, giving you the strength and energy to love and to give. As you remember what new belief?
I am lovable.
And now I want you to imagine that little girl grows up and see all of these other moments in your life. And see these other times in your life where you remember that truth. What's the truth?
I am lovable.
And see all of these other times where in the past that old energy was there. See it all be washed away now and replaced by what new belief?
I am lovable.
And see yourself grow and expand. And in this moment, see yourself become even more confident in who you are. More confident in who you're meant to be on this planet. See yourself in this moment, remembering what new truth?
I am lovable.
And see yourself in this moment growing and having all of these incredible relationships that were there to teach you and to help you grow. And you remember what new belief?
I am lovable.
Does it make sense that you had to feel like you needed to play small? No?
No.
Because what's the truth?
I am so fucking lovable.
Yeah, does it make sense that you felt like you weren't important?
No.
Because what's the truth?
I am lovable.
Does it make sense that relationships are hard work?
No.
No, because what's the truth?
I am lovable.
Yes! Does it make sense that relationships don't last? No. Because what's the truth?
I am lovable.
Does it make sense that you can't trust men?
No.
No. Because what's the truth?
Because I am lovable.
What's the truth?
I'm so fucking lovable.
What's the truth?
I'm so fucking
What's the
lovable.
truth?
I'm lovable.
Yes. So in a moment, I count from 1 to 3. You're going to open your eyes. As you open your eyes, all of this applause is for you. 1, 2, 3.